Hey, what is up everybody? Welcome back to another video. In this video, we are going to be looking at how to animate basic objects in D5 Render. This is nothing super complex. This is kind of a beginner video. If you're new to D5 Render, we're just going to break down how to move basic objects, how to import objects for animation. All right, so I have a project here that I've been working on. In this project, what I want to do is a basic panning from left to right. But in that process, it's a long shot. So I want to add a little bit of interest because we are moving the camera for so long. I don't want the viewer to get bored. So I think what I want to do is take this little car here and have it pull in the driveway and basically just park in front of the house like this. All right, so what we're going to do first is obviously go to our video mode here. And now I want to move my camera to where I want my first shot to be. So we're going to move up, and I think what I'm going to do is position it here. And this is what I would call a reveal shot, right? So we're going to bring the camera to a point that you don't really see what's going on to the right of the camera. So we're going to move back here in the trees a little bit, and then we're going to pan from left to right like this, and we're going to reveal the house as the shot develops. All right, so let's go back behind the side of the house here, and we're going to set our first keyframe. We're just going to set add camera, and that will take a screenshot that essentially sets a keyframe from this location. And actually, I want to move over just a little bit more. I want the reveal to be a little more striking. And I think what I also want to do is I want to get a little bit lower, and I'm going to turn on depth of field. I'm going to turn off, I think, follow focus, but let me set our focus here. And I think I'm just going to set it on maybe these plants in the foreground, and let's turn our blur all the way up to 10. So if we do pan here, we can kind of see that the house is out of focus. All right, so what we're going to do, I'm just going to turn off follow focus. I want this to be exactly, we could set it on the tree. Let's set it on these hydrangea models here. And depending on where I want it to start, maybe I would set the focus here, which is a little closer to the camera. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to keyframe the depth of field at this point. And then as we come across left to right and do the reveal, as the house comes into focus, I want to keyframe then the depth of field focal point to be on the house. So whatever is in the foreground will then become blurred like this. So now you can see the foreground is a little more blurred and the background comes into focus. So let's set our focus here for now. And actually, it's a little close. Let's set it on shrubs here and let's update. So we're going to hit the little refresh button on camera 1, and that is our first camera. Actually, let me position it a little better here. There we go. So now I just want to bring our shot over to about here. Somewhere around here, I want to start as soon as the house essentially gets more than halfway into the frame. So here, if this was our halfway point, as we get to about here, I want to start revealing the house. So I'm going to go back to camera. I'm going to go to set focus. Now I'm going to set focus. I can set it on this tree. We can set it somewhere on the house, but somewhere in this general area. All right. And then we're going to keyframe this again. Okay, so my keyframe intervals are set to auto. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to basically gauge the linear distance that I'm moving the camera, and it's going to adjust the keyframe speed over that whole distance. Sometimes that comes in handy. Sometimes you need to turn that off and set it to custom. I'm going to leave it at auto for now. I'm going to leave my easing into set to linear. And what this means is that the camera will start moving immediately. There will be no slow easing into the shot. And I usually like to do this because when I'm editing after, I want to do kind of cut frames that either follow a beat, or we may come out of we may dip to black and then suddenly cut frame. I want that movement to be instant because sometimes easing in is useful. Generally for an architectural reveal type animation or edit, I usually want to keep my easing set to linear. I just personally, it's a personal preference. I think it looks better. Because it's a little snappier with putting something to a beat. All right, so we set our second keyframe. If we want, we can kind of watch this play back. Currently set to 6 seconds. I think that's a little bit slow. Reduce this down to 3, and that will set basically the tempo for the entire movement here. We do have a long way to go. 3 might be a little fast. I'm gonna go to 4 and just see how this looks. So I don't want the viewer to get bored through this process of revealing. Okay. Okay. But I also don't want to go so fast that we're losing the detail. So I think this works for me. We'll set this to 4. We'll click on camera 2 and just get back here. Now I'm just going to keep moving over. One of the things that I just want to mention, if you're a new user, I do have my navigation set to fly, and I do have the speed turned down to 1 just so I can be a little more precise with my movement. So we're just going to continue to move here. We're going to set our camera keyframes first. It looks like I am aiming back a little bit further than I want. So I think I want to turn the camera just a little bit. Now I don't need to set a keyframe here because it's better to, unless you're doing a strong movement, it's better to set the keyframe at the furthest point if you're doing a long pan like this. And that way the algorithm or whatever's figuring out how to interpolate between these keyframes, let that do the work. And if I wanted to, let's say, move the camera a little closer here, I don't need to set an interval keyframe. I can set to where I need to be overall. So if I was trying to slide in between the trees here that make up the entrance to this driveway, I could move forward to somewhere around there, add my camera. Now you'll see this went from 4 seconds at the first reveal to 27.9. And the reason for that is we have this interval setting set to auto, and this should keep a consistent based on the distance that we moved. If that first distance was 4 seconds, then D5 is saying, okay, to keep that, the rest of this needs to be 27.9. It looks a little slow to me, so I'm going to pause this, turn my interval to custom. I'm going to come back here and we're going to lower this to pretty significantly. I'm going to take it down to somewhere around 10, I think. So I'm going to test this, see what it looks like. If it looks too fast, I will move it up a little bit. So if it's starting to be choppy, I'll go to display, and we'll turn on smooth preview quality. It'll reduce the lighting, but everything will play back really smooth. And this is how I can better gauge the speed. I am also using a beta version of D5. This is 2.4. So you can see that the speed looks a lot better. It actually speeds up a little bit there. As you can see, I kind of like the speed here. You can see the distance that we have to travel. So I think what I want to do is I'm going to lower our initial camera keyframe distance speed. And I'm just looking to see if I get that speed up. There's a little bit, but it's not as noticeable. All right, so we have a slow reveal here. I think what I'm going to do is keyframe it somewhere around when the end of the house gets to be right around the midpoint, something like that. This tree starts to come into frame. Let me refresh camera 3 at this point. Because I still am set to custom, this is going to now look a lot faster. I may need to go back and adjust this because I reset where our keyframe is. So as we get past this tree, it'll probably start to speed up. Actually, it doesn't look too bad. I kind of like the speed there. Generally I'm trying to also pick a music that's a little more subdued. So I want to add that emotional quality to what we're doing. So I think somewhere around this point, I'm going to probably do kind of a slow pan or a slow roll here. What I'm trying to do now is basically frame out a composition for where our ending shot is going to be. So I'm kind of looking at this as I would a still render and trying to compose this. I'm going to go back and make sure 2-point perspective is turned on. I'm going to add a camera here, and I just want to kind of play from this frame somewhere around here. I just want to see that last 6 seconds. I don't know that I want to go through that tree, however. So let me come back here. And I think what I'm going to do at this point is move this forward just a little bit. I'm going to maybe bring this up just a hair, and let's refresh that right there and hit play. And we go through the tree, but I'm going to move maybe just a little bit more forward. I don't mind going through a little bit, but if I can still kind of see the house as we're passing through. And then let's set our depth of field again to here and refresh. All right, so it feels really long, and this is why I want to animate this car, kind of pull in the driveway and park right here. And another thing we could even do is have the garage door open and have the car drive into the garage, but I think I'll save that for another scene. The only other thing I think I want to do is right there. I think I want to take this tree, and I'm just going to cheat a little bit and just slide it over to get it a little bit out of frame. Okay, so now we're not hitting the tree at all, and we're kind of doing that reveal. I'm gonna lift this up just a little bit, somewhere, maybe back it up, something like that. Give me a little bit better framing there. Hit refresh. All right, so now let's work on our car animation. And what we're going to do is when we select the car and we are in video mode, you'll see that we'll get a little keyframe button. We don't get the normal settings. So if I would get out of video mode and I select the car, you can see that we can turn on dynamic. So you want to have dynamic. It's usually on by default. Basically, this will make the tires go as we are animating. There's a driver in there as well. Set to left-hand drive. Okay, you can see the driver. Let's go back to smooth here. You can see it a little better. And you can see that the wheels are turning. Okay, so whatever I do here, or whatever I do when I'm in video mode, isn't going to affect where it's sitting here outside of video mode. So I can go back here and rotate over. We'll select the car. The keyframe option comes up, and I think from the start of the animation at frame 0, I mean, what we're going to do is we're going to have the car out here. Let's see the headlight, rotate it. All right, so let's move this back and set a scene, and you'll see why in a second. But this will be our first keyframe. We're on frame 0, so I'm going to hit add keyframe. Okay, so now we're going to go to camera 2. As we're coming over, the shot's starting to reveal. Let's go back to our top view, and what we're going to do is just move this up like that. So that's about 3 seconds here. We're pulling in the driveway, and we're still going to set a keyframe there. All right, but as we pull this slider, you'll see that we'll move back to here. So it gets a little tough. That's why I set the scene. Then we go back to top view. Now we're on frame roughly 8.5. Let's move forward a little bit more. Pull our slider again and see roughly 10.5. Go back to our top view here. I'm going to start to rotate a little bit. Okay, let's come back here. Right about here, we're going to actually, let me go to the previous keyframe because I think I need to move this up a little bit, not just rotate it, or else it'll just sit there and spin. Come up a little bit more, go back to our top view, rotate it a little bit more, move a little more forward. Now let's go somewhere around here, 16.5. I'm gonna go back to this top view, I'm gonna rotate it a little bit more, and we're gonna move almost into our parking spot, and it will probably pull in kind of slow. So let's go maybe to frame 20, go back here and all the way in right around there. And now we should be parked where we want. And let's go to the end and just put another keyframe there. How this looks, we will probably have to tweak it. Slow reveal, kind of see the car starting to pull in. So it looks a little slow, and you can see then we pulled up a little bit more. So what we can do, let's go here, and I'm going to pull this keyframe over a little bit. I think I want to pull, let's back up a little bit. I'm just looking at the keyframes. So you can see as I adjust these keyframes, this will change things here. I think what I'm going to do is go to the next keyframe, go to the next keyframe, and then delete it. And then I'm going to move this one all the way. I'm going to slide these down just a little bit so that we can stop. So give us a little more time to focus on the house as well. Do a little slow in through there. Let's do a little more tweaking. Bring these a little more evenly spaced. And there's one other keyframe over here that we should pull a little bit closer. Let's move this one actually up as well. That way we're not seeing those headlights until they actually emerge. Somewhere around here, it'll start coming in the driveway, pulling into that spot as we're rotating the camera. So I think that looks a little better. All right, so then that's sitting there. It's some of the wheels are a little bit hidden behind the shrub there, or the grass. Let me just move a copy over here just to kind of hide that last wheel that's spinning. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good overall. Kind of a slow reveal from the side of the house, panning all the way across, and then rotating the camera back towards the house, towards the end. That might be a shot that I would cut up if it felt like it didn't really fit with the music as well. So we're going to call that good for that scene and move on. What I want to do is make another clip here, and I want to talk about how we would go about having the car pull into the garage. So I don't have the interior of the garage modeled necessarily, but I'm going to come back to the SketchUp model here. And what we're going to do is just take our garage door, okay? And what I want to do is I want to make sure it's a component, and then we're just going to go to save as, and we're going to call this garage door. We're just going to save the garage door independently. And what I want to do as well is I want to put it on a layer here, call it animation, and let's hide it. I think I need to add a material here to this back wall. I'll just keep it dark in there, something like that. So I'm going to save the house, and we're going to come back to D5. And what we're going to do is click on the house, and then let me get out of video mode. We're going to come up here. Let's click on it again. And I'm going to come up here and click on the folder, replace from local. I want to be able to control the garage door independently of the house. It may be better in a situation like that if I was going to lift it up and then I wanted to rotate it, maybe set my axis more towards the center. Somewhere around the midpoint. It would make it a little bit trickier to place it in the scene, but I think we could manage. Maybe something like that. All right, so let's jump back over here. You can see the garage door is missing. My parallax shader is poking through here. Here it is, I think. Okay, let's just slide that over. Something like this. And what we want to do now is bring in our garage doors. So let's bring our first one in, like so. Need to flip it around. And try to position it in here. Okay, so if we rotate it, it would rotate from there. So we're just going to go back to here, do our video. And I just want to kind of reveal maybe from right to left now. We're going to keep the camera low enough that we can lift this garage door up. So let's set our first camera, or do our camera first. Let's pan across here. I'm going to lower it just a little bit. Maybe bring the camera down actually. Come across like this. And as we get off here, I'm going to bring this up. Maybe somewhere around here, and then come over to about here. And by that point, the car should be in the garage. All right, so let's look at the timing on this. A little slow. What we can do is let's lower our first one down by, let's go to 4. And because we're set to auto, it should lower all of them. Let's try that one more time. I want to start the scene here a little bit lower. Maybe somewhere around here. And kind of reveal. So I think we're going to end up seeing that garage door, but let's play with it a little bit. All right, so let's just work with this for now. All right, so let's select the garage door. Make sure we're on scene 0. Let's set our first keyframe. Let's move over, and somewhere around here, we're going to start lifting this up like that. And maybe lift it. Let's go 3, and then sit by 6 will be all the way up. And what we can do if it is starting to reveal itself in the shot is right before that point. Right around here, I want to start to rotate this like that. And that way it won't be in the shot at all. All right, so right about there, as this gets to this point, grab our car, set our first keyframe here to establish the starting point. We can probably slide that over a little bit. And then from right about here, we want the car to start moving from. And then here, let's have it drive in or have it be all the way in like that. Look at what that looks like. Okay, and then right around here, we need the garage door to start closing again. We can actually move the camera and go click on it, or if we had it here, right there, we could just select it. And what I want to do here is keyframe it. Let's start to move. Let's keyframe it a little bit sooner. The bar is going to be almost in, and then we're going to basically set this rotation back to 0, but it's going to start closing at the same time. So it should close and rotate roughly at the same time so that you don't see it. All right, so the car is going in, it rotates up, car is in, and say right about there. I mean, if we wanted it to even be kind of in the, as the camera pans back around, we could do that as well and just have it come all the way down at that point, that we still see it closing on camera to add that little bit of interest. So if we come back here, play this, going in, car's driving in, it's coming back down. All right, so we obviously have a keyframe that jumped ahead. Let's go back here, click on it. We also have to fix our depth of field, as we can tell. So where is our previous keyframe? We can hit this previous keyframe button. Okay, so let's go to this one, and I'm assuming it's down. Yeah, so let's delete that keyframe, and let's go here, and actually where is it up? Okay, it's up right there. Go to the next one. Let's delete that so it should be staying up. And by here, it starts to come back down. And what we could do is just have it lower really slow, or obviously you could keep it up and then move this to the end and then keyframe it going all the way down, and it'll go down slow over all of those frames. All right, so let's see what this looks like. Coming out of here into a reveal, door goes up. I think I should put another car in there. Looks a little empty. Viewer's not seeing the door anymore. The door is closing. All right. So if I wanted the door to be open a little bit longer on camera, what I would do is just kind of keyframe it somewhere around here, rotate over, grab the door, and let's just lift it up a little bit. Something like that. And then as we reveal, it should be up a little bit higher. And I could set this keyframe here, put it where I want. Obviously, I don't want it to stick up higher than the roof. So something like that. As we're coming around the door, just kind of catch a glimpse of the taillight, let you know that door is shutting. All right, so the one other thing I said I want to do, let's get out of video mode. Let's come back here. I want to add another car to the garage. Let's go to models. Let's go down to vehicles, and we're obviously going to make these non-dynamic. All right, so let's do this one. This is new. All right, so let's grab this and let's just drop it in our scene. Let's turn off dynamic and driver. Maybe we'll have it backed into the driveway or the garage. Move it back like that. And let's go back and just make sure that there's enough room here. Yeah, I think that looks great. All right, so I'm happy with that. Go back to full quality. The thing I have to do here is just adjust depth of field. So let's set focus and refresh that. Let's go to camera 3. Let's set our depth of field on the house. Refresh that. Come here and let's set our depth of field on the house again and refresh that. All right, so I'm happy with this. In the back, I want to animate a scene back here. go to a new clip. Okay, I'm going to set our focus here. And I want to do something kind of fun here. I think what I'm going to do is animate the splashes and rotate them. All right, so let's go up here to assets. I'm going to turn on my particle assets. And you can see here, if I click on what is the splashes, where are they? Right here, you can see that they are in a group. So I have it grouped here, hot tub splash. And what I'm going to do is let's animate our camera here. And what I want to do is actually rotate all of those splashes that I put in. Now, those splashes are in your asset library. They are just the default splash object here under particles in the pro version. It is in the splash 01 object right here. So I just put a bunch of those in the scene, group them together. And let's go back to precise here. We can kind of see a little bit better. So maybe we'll come out from behind our steps here. Maybe we could do something like this where we can reveal the rest of the project at the same time. But in this shot, I really just want to be able to see, for demonstration, to kind of see what's going on here with the bubbles. So I think I'm just going to pan just a little quick shot like this that just kind of focuses on the bubbles here. Maybe I'll start over here so we can see the candles and turn off clipping. All right, I'll do that. I'll reveal from behind this wall, I think. And maybe this would be like the opening shot to the back. So maybe I would have done a few different clips in the front, developing shots of the front. The viewer doesn't really know what's in the backyard. And then I slowly come from behind here. We start to reveal it, right? It's almost like a strip tease. So we're trying to take off a layer at a time. So something like this, we could come out like this, reveal. I might want to keep it a little bit straighter. That way we could see the television as well. Do our focal point here. So let's come over here. We have some plantings and stuff back here. There's a piece here that shouldn't be here. Let me fix this really. And 3, 2, 1. Okay. All right. So let me save this and we're just going to reload our scene. All right. So let's start our first camera here. Slide over maybe about here. Adjust our depth of field as we get to be about here. We turn down our blur just a little bit, refresh that scene. Let's go to this scene and adjust our focus. We can put it on the TV wall here, turn down our blur just a little bit and refresh that scene. All right, so now we just want to keyframe from our first here. We're going to select our hot tub splash and we're going to rotate it here on the Z. So let's start at 0. Let's come back to maybe frame 4. Let's rotate it. Let's add our keyframe, go to 8, add a keyframe, add a keyframe. All right, so we may have to put some interval keyframes in here. All right, so see if that, there we go. Yeah, just want kind of some random rotation. We can go back to precise and see what that looks like a little better. Maybe turn off the display for our particles. And I'm in a little closer here. And I just want to kind of see what's happening. So all right, turn this back off and let's just play it here from the beginning. Make sure my focal point is right. Let's zoom in a little bit more. I'm going to add a little more space here. Let's go to like 4 seconds as the camera moves in. So you get the idea. We're just trying to create a whirlpool effect here. And I think just because I'm doing it so close, I'm just going to delete this guy. And somewhere around here, I think if I raise them up in the keyframe like that, and try that. So let's go back to and select our splash again. Wait till we get maybe around. I'm gonna start raising them up a little bit. Let me copy the Z location, keyframe, paste it in there. Go to the next keyframe, paste it in there. Okay, so the bubbles are also an asset in the library. And the way that they work is it's just kind of a bunch of bubbles, but I tweak the settings. See if I can get, that's what that looks like. And you can adjust a bunch of these different settings here to dial it in. So what you could do is I put a bunch of them in a row to kind of mimic the jet. You could randomly also adjust the particle size to make them just have a little more randomness. Do some a little smaller, some a little bigger. But I think that looks pretty good. All right, so the other thing I want to really quick animate is the pool cover is actually on this project is this deck. So this deck is going to be on a rail system and it's actually going to slide closed. And I've already done that basically like I did the garage door and imported that in separately. I just have to go here and put it on the right layer. Turn it off and we're going to save this and refresh our scene. So the one problem that I'm going to have with trying to slide this deck across is that these deck chairs are in the way. I'm going to basically have to animate the deck chairs raise up out of the ground. Now, it obviously isn't realistic, but that way they're in the scene. Or I can move them down altogether so we don't have some unrealistic animation where the deck chairs are literally coming out of the ground of the pool or the floor of the pool. But, you know, I think it might actually not be too bad because it is trying to just demonstrate that the pool has a sliding deck as a cover. All right, so that's, now let's come back here. Let's go to a new scene and I'm going to come across this way and it's just going to be a simple pan left to right, slow enough that you can watch this pool deck open, but at the same time kind of see the overall scope of the space. I'm going to do it over maybe 14 seconds. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. Normally that would be too slow for what we're trying to do, but because the focus is going to be on the deck, that's going to add enough interest and visual quality to justify a long, slow shot like that. So let's grab our deck. We want to make sure that we set our, in a situation like this, may not be able to tell from this angle, but this house, a turn in it, the front and the back are slightly angled, right? So you can kind of see how there's this little turn here in the house. The world axis and is set in the front, whereas in the back, you can see our world axis here as we have our deck selected would mean that we're pointing the deck this way. So what I need to do is click this button here that lets me change the selection to local axis. And now we've adjusted that. All right, so we're going to do something similar to what we did in the front, except here I'm just going to refresh my scene that I made for setting up that front animation. And I'm going to delete that when I'm done. And this actually looks pretty cool from up here. But let's go to our first shot here. Let's go back to this clip since we've already keyframed, and let's go copy and let's go here. And we should have another version of this. I think what I'm going to do is do a little higher, and we're going to keyframe this along the same cameras just so that the timeline matches, so that we can have our hot tub animated here as we're coming across. I don't want to go that far because the keyframes that are set up need a little further for the hot tub. Come over a little bit more, and yeah, here we can start to rotate just because we do have that hot tub in there. And let's back up a little bit and just kind of rotate this in here. That way we get the full scope of the back. Keyframe that one, and let's just kind of check out the speed on this. So it's 23 seconds over the entire thing. It is a little slow for the way we're doing it. So I think I'm going to come back a little bit this way. And that way we have a further distance to travel. And then right there during that slowdown is where I'm going to basically open our pool deck. So I want to start with the first keyframe with the pool deck closed. All right, so I'm going to hit Z to kind of center it here. And we can go back. Let's just slide this over on the local axis and come all the way across like that. And you can see that actually all of our furniture and everything needs to come with it. So I need to carefully try to select all of this stuff. I think I have everything selected. Select the deck glass. I'm going to go in here and just group everything. Okay, let's rename this sliding deck. And now let's go back to here. Go to our first keyframe. Let's grab our sliding deck. I want our deck to start closed. And for some reason, once we grouped it, it kind of threw off our axis. I'll have to try to make this work without a true coordinate. Move our deck over. Has to go past that wall and then stops on this side of the coping somewhere around. So let's set our keyframe somewhere around here. I'm going to set another keyframe, and then we're just going to go to the end, or maybe a little bit before the end, 2 seconds before the end, right around 21. And I'm going to have this slide into place and reveal the pool. So I need to be just on that side of our coping. Slide it down just past that wall there. Okay, so something like that. That'll be that keyframe. And then at the end will be open. All right, so the only other issue here is the chairs. As you can see, the chairs need to, if I can select them. All right, so there's our chairs. And I think what I'm going to do is put those in a group. Rename that deck chairs, or let's call them, not technically that, let's call them lounge chairs. Go back here and frame 0. We're going to set these. Let's set our keyframe and lower these. So now they're below. You can see our deck starting to open right about there. Right about there. Let's having them raise up. So let's keyframe them lower. And then by there, let's have them pretty much up. Somewhere around there. And then they'll stay there till the end. There, you see them pop up out of the water, and then that slides all the way across. We have our spa still animated. All right, so it's really from here to here. From here to here is 5 seconds, and that's not that far. I'm gonna push it a little bit further. That little slowdown there, like that, and then it should rotate as it's opening. But I think I also want to back up a little bit. As long as I keep the keyframe, keep the camera and everything named the same, and I'm just overwriting it, I have to keep the seconds the same so that I don't mess up the keyframes for the hot tub. So let's turn on smooth and just kind of see how smooth that plays back. So I think that looks pretty good. Let me try to straighten out this. Yeah, that's better. All right, so I'm going to leave that there and I'm going to render these out. I'll put them at the end of the video. We'll see how everything turned out. I hope everybody has a great day. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.